Yeah, so India is overall looking okay. In context of emerging markets, it was lagging EMs by quite a bit in the sort of the first couple of months of the year, and then it has picked up steam from March. Overall, global equities look good. Overall, global emerging markets are looking good, and within that context, India, which was looking a little bit of a laggard, has now caught up. So overall, things are fine in India. In my view, the best outcome will be a government that believes in kindling a bull market in 2 million square miles instead of just 2 square miles of road and one point in BKC. That's the government that India will be happiest with. As far as stock market is concerned, I'm not too worried about the stock market. It will have its ups and downs. Broadly, if India, the 2 million square mile bull market in India is ignited, the stock market will take its cue and follow. Well, I've been liking more and more small caps incrementally. A lot of them have been obviously become far cheaper, while earnings have actually been quite good. So the valuations have compressed. Dividend yields on many stocks are very good. So overall, this space looks very, very exciting. And I'm still, the large caps have become a very narrow market, basically Reliance and private sector banks. Autos, which were providing a big part of the upswing in the last several years, have really, sort of fallen off the cliff. So that pack is out. So now you're left with very few choices in the large caps. But in the small caps, there's a vast number of companies out there. No, I don't think there's any earnings recovery coming through. I mean, there could be the reverse of that, because autos, which are providing some degree of propulsion to earnings growth or earnings such as they were, they have now gone into degrowth mode. So a big chunk is now away. So you're left with basically still the private sector banks and Reliance and, obviously your IT pack, which are all been there and done that companies. I don't overall expect anything very dramatic on the earnings growth front. And I know for the last 5 years, 20 quarters, people keep beating this drum. But, this drum is looking a little hollow now. Well, I don't think of the telecom industry. I mean, I stopped thinking about it in 2007 when I thought that was the peak of the industry. And since then, I've never had any occasion to change my view. It's incrementally gotten worse. But unfortunately for the players in the industry, they're between a rock and a hard place. They're just basically throwing money into a suboptimal business. Even prior to Reliance Jio, they were already in trouble. So the numbers for all these companies had started trending down even prior to Jio. Jio just became, sort of final rights to a dying sector, or at least a very severely troubled sector. So the hope there is, of course, that there will be pricing stability or pricing sort of upward pressure at some point. We don't know when that happens, if that happens. And in markets, I don't believe that you should bet on a scenario happening 3 years out. Because markets typically don't bet on scenarios 3 years. The markets are pretty immediate mechanisms. They bet on scenarios that are visible over the next 12 months. And I don't see things changing that dramatically in the next 12 months' time for the sector. I mean, I can't say I've studied them in great detail. The BJP, it was more of 2014 as far as I can tell. Some differences being there, being about I think smart cities is no longer mentioned here, while that was a big part of their theme previously. For Congress, they have spelled out some very important things. In my view, as a citizen of India, for me, two things have really stood out. One is pollution, which we all know, and particularly city dwellers in India, we know how serious that problem is. It's underestimated in terms of the impact it has on everybody's health and on the overall sort of cost to the economy. So I think it's very, very good to see a party take cognizance of it and call it a national emergency. And the second is the NAS scheme can do an NREGA 2 equivalent in terms of kickstarting the rural economy, which really does need some degree of pump priming given the level of rural distress. So both parties, have spelled out their visions. Now, I don't know whether the electorate votes based on the manifesto. But, the BJP has got more of the old, the Congress being obviously a party out of power, has to think out of the box, and they have given some good ideas.